Hello, and welcome to Historical Humans Reads, where we take primary sources and bring them to your screen. I'm Colum Coleman, and today we are reading from The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain. Written in 1884 by one of America's great satirists, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn explores the absurdities ingrained in American society through a coming-of-age adventure in the antebellum South, as the titular Huckleberry Finn struggles to understand and subvert the prejudices of the world in which he lives. Today, we will be reading from Chapter 7 of The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. With that, let's begin. Get up, what you bout? I opened my eyes and looked around, trying to make out where I was. It was after sunup, and I had been sound asleep. Pap was standing over me looking sour and sick, too. He says, "What you doing with this gun?" I judged he didn't know nothing about what he had been doing, so I says, "Somebody tried to get in, so I was laying for him." "Why didn't you roust me out?" "Well, I tried to, but I couldn't. I couldn't budge you." "Well, all right, don't stand there palavering all day, but out with you and see if there's a fish on the lines for breakfast. I'll be along in a moment." He unlocked the door, and I cleared out up the riverbank. I noticed some pieces of limbs and such things floating down, and a sprinkling of bark, so I know the river had begun to rise. I reckoned I would have great times now if I was over at the town. The June rise used to be always luck for me, but because as soon as that rise begins, here comes cordwood floating down, and pieces of log rafts, sometimes a dozen logs together, so all you have to do is catch them and sell them to the wood yards and the sawmill. I went along up the bank with one eye out for Pap and the other out for what the rise might fetch along. Well, all at once here comes a canoe, just a beauty too, about 13 or 14 foot long, riding high like a duck. I shot head first off the bank like a frog, clothes and all on, and struck out for the canoe. I expected to be somebody laying down in it, because people often done that to fool folks, and when a chap had pulled a skiff out most to it, they'd raise up and laugh at him. But it weren't so this time. It was a drift canoe, sure enough, and I clumb in and paddled her ashore. Thinks I, the old man will be glad when he sees this. She's worth $10. When I got to shore, Pap weren't in sight yet, and I was running her into a little creek like a gully, all hung over with vines and willows. I struck another idea. I judged I'd hide her good, and then, instead of taking to the woods when I run off, I'd go down the river about 50 mile and camp in one place for good, and not have such a rough time tramping on foot. It was pretty close to the shanty, and I thought I heard the old man coming all the time, but I got her hid, and then I out and looked around the bunch of willows, and there was the old man down the path, just a piece drawing a bead on a bird with his gun, so he hadn't seen anything. When he got along, I was hard at it taking up a trot line. He abused me a little for being so slow. When I told him I fell in the river, and that was what made me so long, I knowed he would see I was wet, and they would ask questions. We got 5 catfish off the lines and went home. Well, we laid off after breakfast to sleep up, both of us being wore out. I got to thinking that if I could fix up some way to keep Pop and the widow from trying to follow me, it would be a certainer thing than trusting to luck to get up far enough before they missed me. You see, all kind of things might happen. Well, I didn't see no way for a while, but by and by Pap raised up a minute to drink another barrel of water. He says, "Another time a man comes a prowling around, I hear you roust me, you hear? That man weren't here for no good. I'd have shot him. Next time you roust me, you hear?" Then he dropped down and went to sleep again. What he had been saying give me the very idea I wanted. I says to myself, I can fix it now so nobody won't think of following me. About 12 o'clock, we turned out and went along up the bank. The river was coming up pretty fast, and lots of driftwood going by on the rise. By and by along comes part of a log raft, 9 logs fast together. We went out with the skiff and towed it ashore. Then we had dinner. Anybody but Pap would have waited and seen the day through so as to catch more stuff, but that weren't Pap's style. 9 logs was enough for one time. He must shove right over to town and sell. So he locked me in and took the skiff and started off towing the raft about 3:30. I judged he won't come back till that night. I waited till I reckoned he had got a good start. Then I out with my saw and went to work on that log again. Before he was to the other side of the river, I was out of the hole. Him and his raft were just a speck on the water away off yonder. I took the sack of cornmeal and took it to where the canoe was hid, and shoved the vines and branches apart and put it in. Then I done the same with the side of bacon, then the whiskey jug. I took all the coffee and sugar there was, and all the ammunition. I took the wadding. I took the bucket and gourd. I took the dipper and a tin cup, and my old saw and 2 blankets, and the skillet and the coffee pot. I took the fish lines and matches and other things, everything that was worth a cent. I cleaned out the place. I wanted an axe, but there wasn't any. The only one was out at the woodpile, and I knowed why I was going to leave that. So I fetched out the gun, and now I was done. This has been an excerpt from The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn on Historical Humans Reads. If you enjoyed this video and would like to hear more excerpts from original texts, please subscribe to be notified of the next one. If there is a work you would like to hear, be sure to like the video and leave a comment listing it below. Thank you for listening.